So what you said is, when you believe that you are the odd person or the weird one in a group of people, and you
Mhm.
used the hospital lounge in
Yeah,
my example of a group
yeah,
of doctors.
yeah.
She said that weirdness about you may be where your joy is.
Hi there. This is Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn. I'm Angela, and
And I'm Leslie.
that's my bestie, Leslie. We are two free thinking 60 something year old women. And we encourage you, we invite you to think deeply and act boldly. If you are an inquisitive older woman, or if you love one, or if you want to become one, please hang with us. You'll be glad you did. You'll be
For
glad
sure.
you did. Okay, I'm being silly right now, but listen. So, Leslie and I were just
Having a
talking about
conversation.
just this is having one of Angie and Leslie typical weird anyone else who walks in the room would think
It's
what
like,
the
what are they
hell are
talking
they
about?
talking
And it's
about?
so odd that, yeah, this is a weird conversation.
This is funny. And I said,
And
listen,
I'm hanging
let's
in there and
record.
I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, okay. In other
This
words,
is so
I should
good.
have just said, get out of here.
This
Leave
is
me
so good.
alone.
This is so good because as I was explaining this, which I'll tell you in a minute, as I was explaining it to Leslie, you know when you know someone else so well that I'm like, if I look at her, she's going to be so confused.
So
And I was
it
thinking
was
to
me. I
myself, should
was
I
slumped
stop?
down in the chair, kind of listening. And when she looked up, I said, so what now?
And I was like, I was thinking to myself, I wasn't looking at her. I was thinking to myself, I should stop right now and check in because she is not
And I'm
tracking.
like,
She's not tracking. And then almost a second later, she said, what you say now? What are you talking about? Okay, so here's what I shared with Leslie, okay? I have been walking to the coffee shop in my neighborhood every day this week so far. And a few times I actually recorded because something came up when I was doing my morning writing and I wanted to share it. And I've been talking about walking in joy because I walk to the coffee shop and this is where I do my recordings. So this morning, what came up when I was writing, one of the things is that the thing that makes you feel weird, like either you don't fit in the group that you're in, and it could be a group, it could be several groups, it could be your family, whatever group that is, your church, your friend group, whatever it is. And your friend group could be your high school friends, or it could be your college friends, or it could be your new friends, whatever.
mm-hmm.
There is something there that you are absolutely already aware of that makes you feel like, oh, I don't quite fit. There's something about me and this group, and I'm kind of the weird one in the group. Somehow, something, and I'll tell you what
Uh-huh.
one of those things is for me. And as I'm thinking about it, where this thought may have come from is when we were on Dr. Kimani Norrington Sands. We did a live with her a few days ago. It's probably over a week now. And one of the things that came up is people not knowing where their joy is, like people not being able to identify.
Mm-hmm.
She'll ask what brings you joy, and they can't answer it. And
Yeah.
so I've been thinking about that, and I realized that that's probably more common than not.
Mm.
And then I was thinking about, well, how did I come to know what it was, and how do I kind of know when at least I'm scratching at it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what hit me when I was writing. It's when it's the thing that makes you different. Either you think you're different, or people tell you that you're different. And I can't really say more than that because it's so kind of it's such an individual thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you a little bit about one of mine, and I say one because it's not only one thing for me. There's not only one thing that makes me weird.
But let me put the sentence together.
Sure.
About how you said it and how it hit me. So
Yeah.
I responded the way I did.
Okay.
With what you talking about, Ann?
But then right after you said what you talking about,
I started synthesizing it.
Yeah, and you
I
said,
did. Because I go with you. I'm your ride or die.
What? And you said what? You said,
I said, I think I get
agree.
it. I think I get it. I think I get it. I think I get it. You see,
go.
you put me on the crazy train. And then I just go along. And then now all of a sudden I'm the conductor of the crazy train. Gee.
Okay, go.
So what you said is, when you believe that you are the odd person or the weird one in a group of people, and you used the hospital lounge in my example of a group of doctors.
Yeah.
She said that weirdness about you may be where your joy is.
That's what I said. That's what I said. And why did you start saying,
wait a minute, could
you may
this
be
be
right
it?
about that? Yeah.
Well, what I believe is that at 62 years old, if I'm in a setting where I think I don't exactly fit, or there's something weird about me, not the group, but it's me, I'm intelligent enough and certainly adaptable enough that if I felt that it was worth changing and altering to be more cohesive and fit more in that group, I would have changed already.
Ah, okay.
And what I'm thinking is the fact that I am holding on to this weirdness or these quirkiness about myself is because there is some gain, perhaps a place of joy or a seed of joy
or you can't do anything about it because that's who you are. You couldn't change it if you wanted to.
Right, but we're speaking specifically about joy.
I know, but yes, and for me, your joy comes from knowing who you are, what your gifts are, and knowing what your needs are.
And not feeling pressure to get rid of them or change
using your
them.
Gifts, exactly. Using your gifts and getting your needs met. So it is one and the same. It is one and the same. And when you just said that, the reason why I said, well, maybe this is just who you are, it's because that is your natural way of being. So you couldn't change it if you wanted to. And the more that you know what, the more that you know what that is. But even if you try, but that's kind of why I call it kind of this weird thing, because you've been trying all this time to not be like that.
Because it's weird.
Because it's weird.
There's this term called, now I'll get a little technical. Do you know that term, regression toward the mean? Of course you do.
I almost can see the picture of it because it's a graph, right? Is it
I guess it could be a mathematical term, I think.
Okay.
I believe, because we're talking about a mean.
Mathematical term.
So what it really means is that entities try to fit into the average. The outliers are not comfortable being outliers. Yeah, that is a bell curve. Right. Let's not get too technical. We don't want to drive nobody away.
It is a bell curve. That is where they fit and where they don't. Yep.
So it's almost like this set point.
Yeah.
And so many systems have it. Weight has it, metabolism and all of this stuff. There's a set point that when you deviate and when you move away from it, everything tries to pull you back.
Right.
So yeah, you, like you were saying, perhaps you cannot make that change.
Let me tell you what is so cool that you just talked about a system. Because one of the weird things about me is that I think in terms of systems. I'm a system thinker, and that has a lot of different that has some. There's a kind of dictionary meaning of that. I'll just kind of do the Angela meaning of it, right?
Okay.
I think in terms of the whole. I think how do these things fit together? What affects what? What are the inputs? What are the outputs? What's the kind of store inside the store? Meaning, what is the whatever, the money, the water, the thing that is inside the system that gets affected by input, outputs, whatever, right?
Okay.
Feedbacks and all that. I not only think that way, but my ways of kind of making sense of the world I can there are a lot of models that are used in systems design, and my way of thinking fits more into these kind of weird flowy designs than in quadrants or than in kind of these much more typical ones. Let me click down. Let me double click to try to make it a little simpler.
Yeah,
right?
make it clearer.
Okay, as best as I can. So, actually, this came up when I was talking to my therapist a few months ago, and we just started going into this thing. So, we know about a pie, right? How we use that. A pie is analogous to there's a whole, there's a sum of its parts.
Yeah, the distribution.
Right, and that if you take something out of the pie, there are fewer left in the pie. You know what I mean? There were 8 pieces, and now there's 7. If you take one out, blah blah blah. Right. But we were describing something, and the pie couldn't contain everything that I was trying to describe. And so when I started to use the pie, but I said, oh, well, but that's like having like blueberries and strawberries on the pie, right? Or that's like having, and I forget what we were describing, but my point is that it was impossible for me to stay bound in this very kind of standard pie thing.
Yeah.
I needed more to describe what was going on in my head. And if any of you have had any experience with when you see systems designed, there are these really weird, uncommon graphical depictions of systems that are very different than the quadrant, the curves, and so on that we typically see.
Yeah.
Let me say it a different way. This may help too. My thinking is more in line with a poem than it is with a just a narrative. That's not helping. I'm getting cold.
No. Sadly, no.
I think in pictures. I think in pictures, and then I translate the image that I see into words.
Okay. That's clear. Yet, You
Yes.
leave room for adding pictures and taking away. And then
I
within
do.
that model, you also group things differently
Absolutely.
at different times. So it could
Absolutely.
have one grouping. You see why?
Right.
You,
All
you guys
of that.
see what I have to go through for 47 years?
So what I did, right?
So take it home.
Okay, so I'm going to take it home. So so this idea of systems thinking, I was thinking about that the other day because
Hmm.
I was trying to understand some concepts that were in my head. And I'm like, if I had more experience with the discipline of systems thinking, there's an actual, people study it and, people
Yes,
use it
we had
to.
an expert on our guest from
Yes,
the
that was
Netherlands.
right. Change management. That is a type of system.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I was thinking, man, if I got some more knowledge about how some of these systems diagrams could be developed, I could probably translate some of what I was thinking into these systems diagrams and be
Hmm.
able to understand it myself more, maybe to be able to explain it more and things like that. And so that was the weird thing about me that I've always known. As
Okay.
soon as I've always known, I've had this kind of weird way of thinking about things.
Hmm.
I'm saying weird in the best way possible,
Yeah.
different, unique, all of those things.
Yeah.
And when I learned about systems and systems thinking and systems design, maybe 2 decades ago, I knew that that spoke to me.
Hmm.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
And then when I was coming home from Virginia a week and a half ago, it was a 4 hour drive. And I was like, oh, well, let me get an audio book and learn a little bit more about systems design. And so I found a book on, Audible, and I listened to it, and it was so helpful. It was
Wow.
so helpful. And joy, again, it's a deep well of fulfillment. This is not a
Hmm.
happy, spiky thing. It's a deep well of
Hmm.
fulfillment. And when I spent a little time understanding some more about systems design, it felt so good. It made me feel less weird. And I'm going to change that language a little bit. It made me feel like I make sense
Hmm.
because this thing is studied the world over. This thing is
Right. That's
used
what
to
I was thinking, that there is, in fact, an audio book that's accessible that you can pull up and learn more about this in a
and
formal
this was just like
way.
a primer. These
Yes.
systems are used to describe famine and why renewable energy works or doesn't work. It's used to
Hmm.
understand any kind of financial systems, economies. It's used in all kinds of ways. Global warming. It's used in all kinds of ways, and so to kind of see myself in something that totally gets me,
Mm.
I got some joy from that. I got,
Sure. Yeah, that's joyful.
that's joyful. And
Yeah.
so, what I was saying in my recording, my video today, while I was walking to the coffee shop, is that if you allow yourself to slow down and pay attention, because you'll be lying if you tell me that you don't know where you show up weird. Leslie, I know where you show up weird because I know
Hey,
where
you
you
put
show
my.
up weird.
All right, where do I show up weird?
Must I? You really want everybody to know? Everybody already knows.
Okay.
You show up weird.
A little nervous. I'm like,
It's not
listen,
so bad. It's
let me tell you why I'm nervous with about you disclosing this, because you make me share personal things
yeah.
before I'm ready to share personal things. And if you disclose something that I thought was still
We're
personal before
not,
I've
we're,
been convinced, I'm going to come out there and get
we're
you.
not,
That's all I'm going to say. So
listen,
where do I show up weird?
I think everybody's gonna know. You show up weird. You really like a lot of structure. You really,
That's
and
not
that
weird.
to who?
Not weird at all.
You you really like a lot of structure. Okay, like when we're watching, when we're even trying to decide what we're going to watch on TV, which is really weird, rare that you know,
We
we
don't
want to
watch
spend our
TV
time together
together. We
watching a
don't.
show, right?
Right.
But there have been a few times over the years, right? And if the characters are not
Oh,
clear,
oh, oh, don't do that
listen,
time travel
listen,
stuff.
don't
Don't
do
do
it.
flashbacks and going back and forth. I don't like that. I don't follow it. I don't like it. I want a linear storyline. If they go back to their childhood, I won't recognize the characters. If that, I'll say, like, what is going on? Turn this off. That's true. That's a true story. I'm like, I watched an hour and a half. Then they started going back, turn it off. I'm like that for sure. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, you're making
Yeah, don't try to twist and turn my head. I was with you up until,
she'll, she'll get a headache if it gets too
yeah.
weird. You get a headache. And the other part of that is, listen, if you're a good guy, be a good guy. If you're a bad guy, be a bad guy. Don't make it. Don't.
Don't start getting all, yeah, yeah, psychological.
No, 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 no. Don't do that.
Mm-mm.
Don't pull me in and then you're evil. I'm not, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. And so, so I tend to like really quirky, like indie films and, where they're very complicated characters and so on and so forth. That's not this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. So to me, that would be something that's quirky. Let me say quirky instead of weird. That would
Okay.
be something quirky. And I think if you kind of allowed yourself to, I'm going to say admit that, not because it's,
It's
again,
shameful or anything, but yeah.
nothing like that.
Identify it. How about that?
Identify it. If you
Mm-hmm.
could, and I'm going to push people because I think it's already something you know. I
Mm.
would invite you to investigate it, to look at it, to pick it up and say, oh, hello, you've been around for a while. I know you. You're a part of me. That's interesting. Why are you a part of me? And just kind of
Mm.
scratch at it.
Mm-hmm.
It would indicate to you what are some of those things that bring you joy.
Mm.
That is the message.
You know what I
That is the
think is
message.
also, I'm going to let it sit right there because that is the message.
Yep.
That's good.
Punto.
What I also think would be helpful in identifying some of those inner joy pockets when people are having difficulty with it is to have someone like you or someone who knows them and someone who is good at identifying similarities
Right.
from disparate information.
Right. Right.
It's a game I play every day, the New York Times Connections game. Are you familiar with it? You get 16 words and you have to find groups of 4 and put them together. So one of the things that you do for me is that you identify certain traits about me by watching what I look at on television, by listening to the things that I talk about, to I commenting on relationships that I'm in, or whatever, and then you say, well, you're this person, because I got it from all these places. I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah, it's so the other thing that I'll say that is so exciting to me about this systems way of looking at it is sometimes we think that so many things are random, that there's no order to chaos. It's just kind of chaos. But even chaos has some rhyme or reason to it, because even if it's the opposite of something, right? It's connected to order. Disorder is connected to order.
To
right?
order, sure. It's its polar opposite.
Exactly.
There's
So
a connection.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you know what it's not, then you know that it is something. We won't get into that. We
I'm following you, but not everybody might. It gets a little wonky.
Listen, my people know me. My people know they
But
they
not
get
just
it.
that.
They get it.
This is a natural conversation that you and I have. We only press the record button. I think, Ed, we need to get a life. We need to get a life.
No, this is our life, baby, and I'm very happy with it.
But it's
I'm very
11
happy with
p.m.
it.
at night.
Okay, all right.
And it's like
I know.
one of us has to be in the awards heaven
Not me.
in
Not
8
me.
hours from now.
Not me.
And I'm sitting here talking to you about systems and Venn diagrams and this and Omari
Speaking of
told
Venn
me.
diagrams, no, I'm sorry.
Omari told me something funny today. He was describing someone and he's like, Mom, you know how people say like, oh, you have these Venn diagrams and where you meet in the middle? He says, well, I heard something funny because someone said, you're not a Venn diagram. You're the circle. You are it. You are the entire entity.
You are the entirety of the thing.
Yeah, I thought that was cute.
That is so like
Yeah.
Intellectual humor.
It is. It really is.
So
I'm glad that I could
anyway,
bring it to you.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Les.
Yeah. Lest
you.
people think that we've lost our minds, we got to cut it.
I'm okay with that. I'm a little cuckoo.
All right.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn. Ta-ta.